What is good, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network. Today is Thursday, May 29th, in the year of our Lord 2025. And this show is for those of us who fear God, love our country, and will not back down from a fight, because the battle that we're in is not just political, it's spiritual. We've got truth to expose, nonsense to crush, and the fight for faith, family, and freedom never takes a day off. The woke crowd, they are melting down. The regime, as always, is lying through its teeth, and patriot warriors around the country are stepping up. And we're going to cover all of it and more if we have time. As you all know, I do tend to get a little long-winded. But please make sure you're following Mission Ready Men at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you want to wear the fight, please go ahead and grab your gear at missionreadymen.com. Click Shop 7 Armors, and you'll find it all there. All right, y'all. Business is done, so let's get after it. We got a lot to get into. It's been like drinking from a fire hose. Before we get into what I had prepared, I just want to make mention real quick. The judicial branch is still, they're still activists. They're still trying to thwart President Trump at every turn. They just blocked basically all of the tariffs that he imposed on all the countries, with very few exceptions. Now, this just happened. I didn't get a chance to really dig into the meat of it, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it this time, but the next time we're together, we will absolutely dive into all of that. So let's talk about some other legal issues that the Trump administration is dealing with. The taxpayer-funded arm of the American Pravda has filed suit against President Trump because he had the temerity to cut off their government gravy train. He signed an executive order on, I believe, May 1st of this year, and it cuts federal funding for NPR, PBS, and public radio stations across the country. Public broadcasting, which started off, I guess, as a decent idea. I've never been a fan of it since I first learned about what it was. And I guess when it started, it was a good idea, or at least people thought it was a good idea. But it has become, as I said, the propaganda, taxpayer-funded propaganda arm of the American Pravda, and the American Pravda is, as you all know, just the propaganda arm of the DNC. And I mean, we have the China News Network, we have MSDNC, some people call it MSLSD, and they unabashedly push leftist narratives, but they're not taxpayer funded. We should not be paying for the propaganda that they're pushing on us. So they filed suit. I believe, on the 27th of May, and it was NPR and some Colorado radio stations, and we're going to get into Colorado later on in the show. But they allege in this suit that President Trump, by cutting off federal funding, is violating their First Amendment rights, claiming it's retaliation. And it's a violation of editorial independence. Okay, that makes absolutely no sense in this context. And they accuse him of violating the Public Broadcasting Act. Only in the swamp, only in the swamp can cutting funding be construed as an attack on free speech. Nobody is stopping them from talking. Nobody is stopping them from spewing their rhetoric. We just don't want them to do it with our money. It's that plain and simple. And in this effort, they hired some pretty high-powered attorneys, Miguel Estrada, who was a Bush-era judicial nominee. And we all know that the Bushes are not conservatives by any stretch of the imagination. And another attorney who represented CNN against the Trump administration during his first term. And they're arguing that the order, the executive order, is blatantly unconstitutional. They hate the Constitution. But now all of a sudden, because they believe that something Trump did is unconstitutional and hurts them, that now they can use the Constitution for their benefit. But make no mistake, this is not about journalism. This is about power, control of information. And presidents have been complaining about NPR and PBS for Republican presidents anyway. I think Democrat presidents never have a problem with NPR. But they're accused of bias and censorship and selective reporting. I mean, they're one of the outlets that refused to report on the Hunter laptop story. That's pretty much selective reporting, as good an example of it as there has ever been. And my biggest issue with it is that, and always has been ever since they came up with the I can't remember what they called it, but it was back when Rush Limbaugh was dominating the airwaves, and they tried to push this idea to censor him, and the name of it is escaping me at the moment. But back then it was like, if you can't compete, just like in any other endeavor, if you can't compete, you got to go. You got to go, and if you can't survive without the government funding you, which is to say without taxpayers funding you, then you shouldn't survive. It's that plain and simple. They want your tax dollars. They want you to continue to fund them so that they can continue to call you a threat to democracy. That's what they want. They want to be able to continue to call you a threat to democracy. And they will continue to do it. They will continue to do it. Even if, well, let's just say, if federal funding does get cut off, some of these broadcasters probably won't survive, but the ones that do are going to continue to call you a threat to democracy because you dare to disagree with the narrative that they are pushing. It's infuriating. It really is. And I forgot to connect the chat. So if you're in chat, please go ahead and log in. I just enabled it. So if you have something to say, if you want to disagree with me, feel free. If you agree with me, I'd love to hear that too. But the chat is open, and the best venue for the chat is YouTube. If you chat us on Facebook or Twitter, there's a very good chance that we won't see it. But YouTube is the best place. So feel free to chime in. We'd love to hear from you. All right. I want to move on because we got a lot to get to. And this is a Texas story, but it has obvious national implications. And John Cornyn is up for re-election, and he has been in the Senate for 24 years. 24 years. And his supporters will say, well, he's voted with Trump 90+% of the time. Okay, that means not a whole lot to me. And it shouldn't mean a whole lot to any of you. But he's got a primary challenger now in Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton is a hero here in Texas. I was really hoping he was going to end up being our attorney general. That didn't happen. We're dealing with Pam Bondi now, and that's a whole other issue that I won't get into right now. But he's primarying John Cornyn, and he is crushing him right now in the polls. His internal polls have him up like 25%. It's more likely around 9 or 10%, which is still crushing him as far as I'm concerned. And so John Cornyn sees the writing on the wall. He knows that he's a rhino that hardcore conservatives cannot stand. I don't even understand how he's been in office for 24 years, but Axios is now reporting that Chris LaCivita has signed on a pro-Cornyn super PAC called Texans for a Conservative Majority. And John Cornyn is no conservative by any stretch of the imagination. By any measure, he is not conservative. And we'll explain that here in a second. But Chris LaCivita, he has been a fixture in Virginia politics and now the national scene, and he is a dangerous political operative in the Republican establishment. And I don't think he is a conservative. I'm not even sure. I mean, he was Trump's campaign manager for a while, and he did help him get reelected in 2024. I'm not certain. From what I've read so far, I'm not really sure that he's a conservative. I think he's just a hired gun. And so he's joined that super PAC, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure that it's I'm not sure that he's a good guy, basically. But he joined a super PAC, and a super PAC basically is allowed to raise unlimited funds from any number of entities, corporations, unions, you name it, unlimited funds. And they're allowed to also spend those unlimited funds to advocate for political candidates or against political candidates. And they're prohibited from donating money directly to particular candidates, and they can't coordinate with any campaign. So Cornyn hired a hired gun, a dangerous hired gun. And that just shows how desperate he is, because he knows Ken Paxton, all things being equal, will wipe the floor with him. And so LaCivita coming on board is going to be a challenge for Ken Paxton, because Ken Paxton has been the subject of a lot of heat. He has been, they tried to impeach him here in Texas. They just level all kinds of accusations against him, and he's walked away from every last one of them vindicated. And that just goes to show you that there is a pretty big problem here in Texas. Texas had a reputation for being a deep red, staunchly conservative state. And because so many leftists from New York and California and other places on the left coast have they've infiltrated. And they've not just infiltrated, but what they've done is they've run leftists as Republicans. They've run leftists as Republicans who say all the right things, make all the right moves, and then once they get to the state house, they show their true colors. And we just saw this with the Texas Speaker of the House. Republicans, alleged Republicans, joined with Democrats to elect a rhino to the speakership. And that just proves that they're rhinos. They're leftists, and we need to be more discerning about who we elect. But John Cornyn, one of the rhinos in Washington, he is weak. He is a rhino. He's weak on border security. He's a compromiser, to say the least, on gun control. He supported red flag laws. He supported reasonable gun safety measures and things like that. And as we talked about last time, there is no compromise when it comes to the Second Amendment. None. And he has proven to be someone who is willing to compromise on that. Unless, of course, when it comes to his security. And in fact, you know what? I want to take a look at this, because this was funny. Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze, she confronted John Cornyn at the Texas GOP convention last year. And he thought he was interacting with a supporter, obviously at the GOP convention. Why would he expect there to be opponents? But he got surprised, and this was a funny interaction. And let's see if we can pull it up here. All right, here we go. Check this out.
Why do you keep voting to send our money to Ukraine?
Well, because I think it's in our national security interest to help them defend themselves.
Grab you over here. Pardon me, sorry.
Hey, why did you call Ken Paxton a criminal? Senator, why did you call Ken Paxton a criminal? Senator Cornyn doesn't want to answer to his constituents. Can you stop touching me, please? Thank you.
Oh, come on, give her access. What the hell?
That was hilarious. And that's the kind of person he is. And he is, I think he was trying to position himself as the leader, Senate Majority Leader, after McConnell decided he wasn't going to stay in that position. And as you saw there, when she asked him about Ken Paxton, he's one of the ones that's been accusing Paxton of all kinds of nefarious activity. But the thing is, Ken Paxton has been fighting. He fought the Biden administration tooth and nail. Every chance he got, he was suing the Biden administration. And he is, like I said, all things being equal, he wipes the floor with Cornyn. La Savita is known to paint the corners a little bit, and so we'll see if Paxton can overcome that. And so and that brings us to a question: is why is La Savita doing this? Because he is he's been known to be a Trump loyalist, but at the same time, he's also fought against some of the things that Trump has been in favor of, and so it raises some questions as to whether or not it raises questions as to what he's actually doing. Is he just trying to stop Trump from endorsing Paxton? Is he trying to keep Cornyn in power for some other reason? Is he and the people who he's beholden to, are they trying to keep Cornyn in power for some other reason? Because I really think that if Republicans really want to maintain control of Texas, electing Ken Paxton to Cornyn's Senate seat is the best way to do it. And it's not even close. And so is he trying to send a message to Paxton that Trump is going to endorse Cornyn? I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I guess we'll see how it plays out in the long run. But it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight. And if you're in Texas, please do whatever you can to support Ken Paxton. Because if we have another 6 years of John Cornyn, Texas is very likely to turn blue. I think it's already a shade of purple. And Paxton needs the grassroots support of everyday Texans like you and me. And so La Savita, he is a high-powered consultant for the RNC. He's the COO of the RNC. But he's an establishment, I don't want to say hack, but maybe that's the right word. And we don't want him to, Texas conservatism has already been hijacked to a certain extent, and we want to stop the bleeding. And Ken Paxton will go a long way towards stopping that bleeding, because this is a fight for not just Texas, but it's a fight for the country. Because I think as Texas goes, so goes the country. And if Texas turns purple or blue, that is going to be a disaster. That is going to be a disaster. And we don't want that. We can't afford that as a country. We just cannot afford that as a country. All right, y'all. I want to move on, but before we do, I want to get a word in from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today is Carry Girl Gear, my beautiful wife's company. And if you are looking for a solid gift for your wife or your girlfriend, please check out carrygirl.com. They've got some of the best looking, highest quality shirts you will find anywhere. Bold designs, great fabric, and stuff that she will actually want to wear. Check out some of these designs right here. These are some new ones. The American Riders tee is awesome. Check that out. But we got all kinds of this is the new logo tee. Check it out. The new logo for carrygirl.com. Awesome. And you just really, if you want bold designs, if you want designs that will show off your faith and your patriotism, you definitely want to check out carrygirl.com. And it's not just the t-shirts, hats, drinkware, all kinds of accessories that she will absolutely love. And if you're somehow limited in your ability to understand, and you don't know sizes or what she actually might like, go ahead and grab yourself a gift card and let her pick out her own care. It's quick, easy, and she'll get exactly what she wants, and you'll be a hero. So head over to carrygirl.com, show some love, and make it count. Visit carrygirl.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you're watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch a bunch of great shows. You can catch Sackhead Sean with The Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, which means he will be on tonight. He's been off for, I think, at least one show, maybe two, but he will be back tonight. So please tune in, like and subscribe, share all these great shows. We are 13 away from 500, and that 500 subscriber threshold opens up a lot of doors in the algorithm for us. So please like and subscribe, and pray for us to have that breakthrough to 500, and then 1,000, and then just explode all over YouTube so that we are reaching as many people as we possibly can. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And Colorado's hurting. And I don't know what's going on over there, but they just took a dangerous step towards punishing Christians for raising their children according to biblical truth. House Bill 25-1312, it claims to protect children from coercive control, meaning parents. And it is a direct assault on parental authority, free speech, and the right to live our faith. And let's just take a look at this bill here. I think we have it. Yeah. This bill is dangerous on many fronts. And this article says that Colorado just criminalized Christianity, and to an extent they did. Colorado's House Bill 25-1312 was signed into law on May 16th. And this is, as it says right here, represents a radical overreach by the state, effectively criminalizing biblical convictions and punishing Christians for living out not only their faith, but the obvious truth that men are men and women are women, and no one can change their gender. I mean, this is just, 5-year-olds know this. This is not difficult. Yet, this is the hill they're choosing to die on. And it's exhausting, really. But they are actively fighting to criminalize Christianity and take kids away from parents who follow biblical principles. They're trying to tell parents that you either have to lie about your child's God-given identity, or the state's going to take them away. If you refuse to call your son she because he wants to wear dresses and play with dolls, you could be accused of child abuse, which will put you in danger of having your children taken away from you. And like I said, the truth is obvious. God created male and female, and You can't change that. You cannot change that. And Christians, we want to raise our children in biblical truth. Indulging these fantasies, indulging these mental disorders is not truth, and it's not love. The culture has moved from tolerating these alternative lifestyles to mandating that you affirm these mental illnesses, affirm these delusions. And these laws, like this HB 25-1312, criminalizes biblical conviction. Doesn't criminalize any actions, doesn't criminalize violence, just belief. Thought police. They call truth harmful and obedience to God's word coercion. What happened to freedom of religion that people are all up in arms about when it comes to praying at the Pentagon? But like I said, in that instance, the freedom of religion only goes one way. They want freedom from religion, is what it really boils down to. Isaiah 5:20, woe to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Well, that's exactly what this is. They're calling lies the truth, and the truth lies. This is they're trying to paint it as freedom of speech and freedom of expression for the children, but what it is compelled speech against the parents and against anyone who dares disagree, really. And let's just be clear about this. The state has always tried to insert itself between the parent and the child. That's a Marxist. That's a Marxist idea, and that's what these people are. These people are Marxist to the highest degree. And so parents who try to raise their children in faith and the fear and admonition of the Lord are going to be legally punished in the state of Colorado. And I think there are a couple of other states, like California being one, that has similar legislation, and others that are either considering it or have passed it. I'm not entirely sure, but it's coming. It's coming. What they're allowing you, I guess, quote unquote, to believe what you want to believe, but living by it is going to be criminalized in the state of Colorado. And that's how tyranny starts. And this isn't just starting. I mean, this is just the natural progression of the tyranny of the left. But they're not just out and out imposing with violence and things like that, their ideas, but by threatening to take away your children and issuing these court rulings that punish people who don't conform to the cult of the left, that's the building block. That's the first step. or in this case, probably the second or third step. I mean, and they've talked about before, they've talked about re-education camps and stuff like that for conservatives. You think they wouldn't try this or try that in this instance? Of course they would. But thankfully, there are Christians in Colorado who are standing strong, because we don't change God's word to fit man's law. We have to make sure that man's law conforms to God's word, and that's what the founders intended. That is exactly what the founders intended when they wrote the Constitution. But because the modern left hates God and hates anyone who loves God, they have to circumvent the Constitution at every chance they get, because the Constitution bumps up against their secular beliefs, and they just can't have that. So thank God that these faithful Christians in Colorado are standing up, because Christians aren't ever going to be popular if they are faithful. They're just not. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. We have to stand on courage, truth, and conviction, no matter the cost, because that's how Jesus lived, and we are called to live like him, and so that's what we have to do. All right, y'all. I wanted to get to this last week, last time we were together, but it got away from me. And I'm not going to play the sound. I just wanted to mention it real quick. Last week, obviously, was Memorial Day. And that's the day that we commemorate the heroes who died defending our freedom. But during that weekend, there was another memorial that was celebrated by some people. And this was a memorial, spit it out, Earl, a memorial for a guy who was a drug addict, died of an overdose. And because he died of an overdose while interacting with the police, there were riots, lawlessness, and upheaval that took place. And in that place, they honored him, and I'm talking about George Floyd, as opposed to the men and women who sacrificed and paid the ultimate price for the freedom of this country. George Floyd, as I said, was a violent criminal with a drug addiction. And he died with enough fentanyl in his system, according to the coroner, to kill multiple men. And the coroner also said that if he had not been aware of the circumstances of this guy's death, he would have ruled it an overdose. But because of all the pressure at that time, he ruled it a homicide. And now Derek Chauvin is in jail. And his death, while tragic, especially for his family, has been turned into a brand. It's been turned into a brand. And it's a brand that the left is celebrating over and above the men and women who actually deserve to be honored. And That's just a hallmark of the left, because there was a Maryland representative who on Memorial Day weekend went down to El Salvador to try and see uh, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a guy who's not his constituent, a guy who's not a citizen of the United States, on Memorial Day, a guy who was a known human trafficker, drug smuggler, wife beater, and again, not a citizen of the United States. That just shows you what these people are all about. So we need to remember who we are as Americans. I've said that many times before. Because when Memorial Day gets a brief, if any, mention at all, and a drug addicted criminal gets hours and hours worth of coverage 5 years after his death, that's a problem. That is a problem. He got wall-to-wall coverage, and Memorial Day in the American Pravda got barely a mention. And so right now, we have Floyd Square in Minneapolis, and I guarantee you all the children in Minneapolis know exactly who George Floyd is, but they couldn't name one Medal of Honor recipient. That's sad. That is sad. Kids should grow up learning the names of Medal of Honor recipients, not martyrs who died of a drug overdose. Anyway, I spent a little bit more time on that than I really wanted to at this point, but that's fine. We still got a lot to get into. The left is in a panic right now, because they've admitted publicly that they have no idea how to reach young men. Not a clue. Not a clue. Derek Thompson, he had a Twitter X post where he said that what Democrats really need is a way to reach people, especially young men, who aren't consuming political news at all. And that post goes on. As I said, it was deleted, and so I don't have the entire text of it. But it was basically an admission that they don't know how to talk to young men, and so as a result, the left is spending $20 million on this thing called the SAM Initiative, Speaking with American Men. And they're trying to study how to talk to guys, how to connect with them. And they're these people, they just don't get it. They don't get it, and they're not self-aware enough to know that they don't get it. This is a story from The Independent. Democrats spending millions to learn how to speak to American men and win back the working class. Now, I don't know what this is, but this is not an electrician. This is just some stock photo of a guy holding some cables and tools, but this is not an electrician. And I'm not an electrician, but I know. Anyway, it's just sad. But let's see what they have to say here. Democrats have blown millions of dollars on efforts to appeal to American men who turned to President Donald Trump in droves on Election Day in the hopes of winning back the working class, according to a report. And I suppose this picture was going to help them do that. But Democrats have spent $20 million on their efforts with donors and strategists holding up in luxury hotel rooms brainstorming. Excuse me. That's the problem right there. That's the problem right there. They're holed up in a luxury hotel room brainstorming how to talk to working class men instead of trying to go out to where working class men are, going out to trade schools and talking to them. No, they're going to sit in their luxury hotels, sipping on their expensive champagne and eating their expensive hotel meals, and brainstorm how to talk to these guys. They're stupid. There's no other way to describe it. That's just stupid. Above all, we must shift from a moralizing tone to plan urges. I mean, that's all the left knows how to do. That's all they know how to do. They can't relate to people because they're of the mindset, and always have been, that if you disagree with them, you're a bad person. Whereas conservatives, especially Christian conservatives, will look at it and say, that is a bad idea, but I think you're still a good person. Whether or not that's true is another matter. But that's the mindset that's the contrast of the mindsets that these two groups come at the issue with. I think Dan Bongino used to say, the left thinks you're a bad person with ideas, and conservatives think you're just a person with bad ideas. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. It's been a while since I heard him say that, but that's the gist of it. And that's what the left is. So they have these expensive brainstorming sessions, and the result is going to be the same. They're going to have absolutely no idea how to deal with men. And here's part of the problem, a huge part of the problem. They have demonized masculinity and promoted this progressive, feminized culture for men. They promote a victim mentality because they think the world owes you something, and if you don't get what you believe the world owes you, then you're a victim. But men want responsibility. They want purpose. And a victim mentality undermines that. And of course, the censorship. Men want to be able to think for themselves. And the men that they want to reach, they're not going to be able to reach with this censorship culture that they've fostered over the years. And NPR, which we talked about earlier, and MSDNC and the China News Network, TikTok influencers, Instagram influencers, they're not going to appeal to men, young men who are looking for something rooted in truth, rooted in the American idea of independence and grit. That is anathema to the leftists and the American prophet. They've been shaming men for decades, and now expect that just because they're trying to appeal to them on some level that they're going to vote for them. And that's not going to happen. Especially when you have guys like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson to a certain extent, Jocko Willing, Matt Walsh, These guys, for the most part, are Christians. I know there's Jordan Peterson kind of hesitated when he was asked that, but they're patriots and they promote the idea of responsibility, strength, and purpose. That's what young men are looking for. And if the left will never embrace that because that goes against every one of their principles, if you can call it a principle. But those guys, they promote discipline. They promote masculinity, biblical masculinity. They promote free speech and personal accountability. They're running towards responsibility. They're encouraging young men to run towards responsibility. And that's something that the left just can't get their minds around. They just can't. Conservatives, the right wing, our ideas are rooted in truth, in strength, in faith, in freedom, liberty. Ideas that the left just hates. And they hate, I've said this before, they hate you, they hate your family, they hate this country. And anything that promotes that, anything that supports that, they are just viscerally against. And this goes back to the idea of NPR and these leftist organizations needing government funds. Conservatives don't need to buy influencers like the leftists, because they're trying to buy and manufacture their own Joe Rogan. And the irony is lost on them because Joe Rogan was on the left. He was a Bernie bro. They had their own Joe Rogan, and it was Joe Rogan. And now that they've lost him, and Joe Rogan has now famously started going to church and believing in God, praise God for that. Now they're trying to manufacture another Joe Rogan, but they lost the one that they had. They lost the one that they had, and they're never going to get him back. They are never going to get him back, no matter how much money they throw at the problem. Because when you look at the leftists that they have in the podcast space right now, and their names escape me at the moment. Harry Sisson is one, and I can't think of the rest of them right now. But those guys are just anti-Trump, leftist, soy beta boys. They're never going to fill the Joe Rogan space on the left. Never going to happen. The future is never. The left has been mocking men for so long that the future is. They're not going to have a future with young men. They're not. Young men want to be challenged, they want to lead, and they want to be respected. And that's not something that the left offers. All right, y'all. I wanted to, there's a few other stories I wanted to get to. I don't know if I'm going to have time. Yeah, let's do this, because this one is amazing. I'm just going to mention Patti LuPone. She's a legendary Broadway star. Has said recently that she wants the Kennedy Center to be blown up, because as far as she's concerned, if the left can't control the arts, then there shouldn't be any, is basically what she's saying. And she's famously called President Trump an MFer. She's just a lunatic, and it goes to show that the left, they're the violent ones. She wants to blow up the Kennedy Center, really? Crazy. All right, we got a couple of minutes left, and I want to get to this because this is just amazing. And I may be able to get to this one too, but let's just take a look at this real quick because Whoopi Goldberg said, that President Trump this past Memorial Day finally gave Gold Star families their due. Listen to this.
It's nice to see.
But it sounds like he's doing a set at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah. It was about time we heard him give the Gold Star families their due. It was about time he did that because he spoke and said, we are proud of our Gold Star families. This is the first time, at least maybe, unless you've heard him do it.
No, he's hosted them at the White House in his first
right,
term.
but the last time we collectively heard him talking about Gold Star families, it was not positive.
What is she talking about? He has never been anything but gracious to Gold Star families. And the Gold Star families who lost their service members at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan under the Biden administration. Biden didn't call any of them. None of them have heard from Biden to this day. Trump called every single one of them. Trump met with them multiple times. And she says that this is the first time that he's given Gold Star families their due. She's insane.
Could hear all that in the midst of all of that stuff.
I mean, I heard that because it was something that I need to have him say.
And that's all. That's it. The Alyssa Farah Griffith, the alleged conservative on that panel, she gave the weakest of weak sauce pushbacks on that. He hosted them in his first time. Come on. Anyone who's paid any attention knows that Gold Star families are very important to President Trump, and he gives them their due every chance he gets. All right. One other quick thing I wanted to get to, because this was amazing. Michael Steele, former RNC chairman, how he was RNC chairman, I don't get. But he had something equally asinine to say. And here he is talking to the representative who tried to go down to El Salvador to see Garcia on Memorial Day.
Could you explain or maybe express how is this different? Because I've been thinking about this case in particular, but some of the others that are very similarly situated. How is this different from when Putin grabs a journalist or some rogue group in the Middle East grabs an American, and we're sitting here fighting to try to get them back? Our own government did this. Mm-hmm. Our own government snatched him up and put him in harm's way, and now refuses to do what it must do and should do to get him back home. Is there any difference in your view as a member of Congress when you're sitting here and you're getting intel and information on individuals around the globe who've been taken by taken hostage by groups and organizations, and all this energy to try to get them back? I find we're doing the exact same thing here in the U.S. now.
No, we're not. Abrego Garcia is not an American citizen. He was here illegally. He was a criminal. He was not kidnapped. He was deported. He was sent back to his home country. That is by definition not kidnapping. Unbelievable. These people are insane. Anyway, folks, that's all I got for you this time. I will keep trying to make each episode better than the last one. If any of what I said hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share it with everyone that you know. And I want to say thank you to Tim for hitting us up in chat from the UK. Thank you, Tim. It's good to have you. Glad you're here. But we're not just here to opine. We're here to spread the message of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. And if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, hit the Shop 7 Armors button and check it out. We got all kinds of great designs about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.